me just tell you a little bit about myself. Daniel Lubiner. I've been a teacher for over 25 years, and I was a teacher of special education. So I taught all kinds of different kids with different needs, and I've had the pleasure of teaching kids from preschool all the way up to college. I taught some college kids, and I learning disabled kids and kids with autism. Um, so, and one of the things I loved teaching was teaching reading. So taking reading kids from non-readers to readers, right? And then I also always loved the arts. So I've always been quite the artist and just doing things around the house and teaching art part-time. I had this one thing, I was teaching Arts for Everyone, which was centered around arts for kids with autism. But then I had this wonderful opportunity to go to the New York Institute for Special Education and work there for about 10 years. So I started teaching kids who were emotionally disturbed, and then one day they said, well, we're promoting the art teachers for the blind, so you're going to teach the whole school. So you're going to teach 100 or so blind kids a week. And I was like, what? I'm going to teach them art? And I was really scared. I was like really nervous. And that's one of the things I think I like to focus on too, is my feeling of being around somebody with a disability, how it makes people feel, you know, and how we could bridge that gap so we are all feeling comfortable with each other. Not like feeling I'm going to say the wrong thing, because that's how I felt. Like I'm going to say the wrong thing. I'm going to make some joke. I'm going to, you know, upset people. But very quickly, the kids, they made me feel great, like at home. And to them, blindness was like blonde hair. Like, you know, they didn't focus on it. It didn't define them. You know, it was part of who they were. They had to deal with, you know, challenges, but it didn't define who they were. So they were just kids. They were teenagers, right? They wanted to play. They wanted to make out in the hallways and stuff. So, you know, anyway, it turned into a really inspirational experience. And I started thinking of like these products, these like, what if kids could have this? What if kids could have that? What if they are able to do art wherever they go, just like us? Like we could go anywhere. I mean, us like a sighted people. Okay, we could go anywhere and take out paper pen and start sketching away. We grew up, we had Etch-a-Sketch, Magna Doodle, and all kinds of arts toys. Well, they're not accessible for people who are blind or low vision. And then the pandemic hit. Boom. So I'm in the middle of teaching art. I'm having a wonderful time. This is the best job I've ever had in my life. Okay. I had wonderful students like Catherine is here. Kathleen, sorry. Kathleen, you know, wonderful student. I'm so happy to see her again. You know, these students inspired me to make these things. But when the pandemic hit, everybody went home, right? And you can imagine what it was like. And some people were saying, like, how do we teach kids during a pandemic? You know, over the internet, and it's difficult, and some people don't have internet, and there was all these difficulties. But now imagine that your students cannot see. Okay, so that limits what you could do tremendously with, you know, kids who are blind. So I started thinking, like, what if they had something in front of them that they could use that was low cost that we could like mass produce so everybody could have them? Because my kids were like from the Bronx, Brooklyn, uh, you know, they didn't have money to go on Amazon.com and just buy stuff, right? So I ended up doing poetry. I did songwriting. You know, I would play songs, but art was out. And then I was thinking, how are they learning Braille? How could you learn Braille without something in front of you? Now, maybe you could learn one cell, like you'll see that a lot. They learn one letter, right? So you have an egg carton, you have 6 eggs in there, and you move them around, and you can learn about one letter. But that's not learning how to read and write, you know? And then I found out that that's a problem internationally anyway, pandemic or no pandemic. Kids who are blind and low vision are not learning to read and write. In the United States, only 10% of students are learning Braille, who need to learn Braille. And that's in the United States, okay, where we're supposed to have, you know, all this extra money. We have money going into education. But how could that be? Only 10% of kids are learning how to read and write. And during the pandemic, we're like, oh, sorry, you'll have to wait, you know, until the pandemic's over. But then you look at countries like Africa. I mean, the some more, not countries of Africa, but countries that are in Africa, countries in, well, for example, India, some countries that might not have as much money to be spending on things. And then your percentages go down to 1%, less than 1% of students who are learning to read and write. So if these kids are coming out and they're blind, so they're at a disadvantage already, and they can't learn how to read and write, or at least get introduced to it, what chance do they have to succeed in this world? What chance do they have to go on to bigger and better things? Not much, you know? I was once talking to someone who's like a higher up in India, and I was like, what happens to these kids? Oh, they become beggars. And that basically the thing is they become beggars. They live off of society one way or another and be independent. But of course, in the United States, we have the same thing kind of going on because you have 70% of people are unemployed. That's approximately 70% of people who are blind and low vision are unemployed. So they're all living off the government. So all that got me thinking, and I started thinking about this. So this, for those of you who are blind, I'm holding up a tablet. It's about the size of a laptop. This side has hundreds of holes in an array of dots. And what I could do is I take a magnet and I am able to just put the magnet over it, and you could hear the balls come up and lock into place. Now, this was based on a toy that was on Amazon. So they had this toy on Amazon that did pretty much the same thing, except for one thing. It was made for sighted people, because as soon as you would touch it, the balls would fall down. So we had to invent something that, like, what if we could get these balls to stay up just right so I could scrub it back and forth, I could feel it all that I want, and the balls won't fall down until I give them a push, and then they go down. So that became like the $64,000 question. And it took over a year and a half of development to make this into something that could hold the balls up just right and be able to feel it. And originally, this was going to be just this side, and we were going to use like covers that I'll show you in a bit. Okay, we're going to use covers to teach Braille. So that was the original idea. But then I was like, well, what if we can teach kids Braille by having it two-sided? Okay, so now we have a two-sided tablet. And on this side, for those of you who are blind or low vision, I'm looking at the Braille Doodle. It says Braille Doodle on top. It has the entire alphabet and also some sight words of the and in order for anybody to start learning Braille. And whether you're kids or adults and started learning as an adult, you know, you start going blind as an adult, you might want to learn some Braille. This will help you. And I was looking at all these devices that they had for teaching Braille, and I was saying, well, how can I do that differently? How can I do that better? How can I do that as a reading teacher? Because as a reading teacher, you want to teach letters, yeah, but then you want to move on after letters. So the first thing we do is do our ABCs and we do phonics. And we also, as a teacher, we model things. So a Braille cell, like if you look at this A, it has 6 dots. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, with those 6 dots, that genius Louis Braille, okay, said with 6 dots, I could make any letter and even words and some symbols. I can make any letter, okay, to have dots in different positions. So in this dot, I could count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I could feel them. But actually, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are false dots. Only the 1 comes up, and I could feel the 1. And that is because 1 is the Braille letter for A. So we model the A. It's immediately successful. And next to it, we practice it. So you do A, and then you go over here and you practice it. Oh, but wait, I messed up, okay? I did 1 and 2. So I don't want the 2. This doesn't feel alike. So I'm going to push this down. And now I have A, right? And of course, down here, a person who's sighted can follow along with A, which is also the number 1, by the way, if you have a symbol. A1, B is 2, C is 3. So we could follow that along. And also, this is the actual Braille. So it's kind of hard to see, but it's raised on a little rectangle. So you could feel what actual Braille feels like. So it's much, much smaller than this. This is Jumbo Braille, which is actually very good for adults too, we've found, to start because they, they need that extra feeling here. So we go across, we do A, B, B, C, C. And we also have 19 Braille cells on the bottom, 2 rows of 19 Braille cells that go right across. So that's another thing that we do in teaching is we practice. We say, okay, you learn the A, but let's make 25 A's. A, say it with me. A. Oop, I messed up. I made a B. I want to make that an A. And everything's tactile. Everything's separated by little lines that you could feel. So this is a real good beginner thing for someone. And As I said too, as a reading teacher, you want to go from phonics and then you want to go on to words, right? So you want to take the phonics and go on to words. You want to go to cat, sat, fat, mat, right? So you want to spell out those things. Here's my name, capital Daniel. Daniel. Okay. So now we're writing words, right? Now we're writing words, and then we could write sentences. Fat cat sat on a mat. Okay. And that's how we go from writing phonics to actually writing sentences, to reading sentences. And we could erase things. And I know from just watching and experience that a lot of times, students are learning this type of thing on a brailler, and that's good because you have it all the way through. But what if you make a mistake on the brailler? You put it in the brailler, then you have to lift it up, then you have to feel your mistake, then you have to maybe rub it down, that dot, okay? So you don't have that one dot where you made a mistake, or you have to start all over again because it's really not good to be able to do all that stuff. So, this is a great start. Now, I'm not saying that this is going to take people and immediately people are going to be like reading Braille and stuff like that and writing Braille, but this is the start. This is where people could take this out of the box and start learning and start being successful right out of the box.
Excuse me, Mr. Lewiter. That that is really amazing what you're trying to do. I mean, it's really awesome, and I'm very happy that you're making this thing, the Braille Doodle, a big success.
Thank you. And we're going to have questions right after, I think.
Okay.
We have time for Q&A. And so I'm on my flow. I got to keep up with my presentation now. So also on the bottom here is the whole alphabet in Braille. So you could feel what the alphabet really feels like in Braille. And if anybody ever heard of this sentence, the brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. Anybody ever heard of that? It's a
Yes.
sentence that they use in typing and stuff because it has every letter of the alphabet. So then you could have students feel what it really feels like in words and sentences, and they could also find the letter. You can make it into a game. Anything that could be gamey and gamify and fun and motivational. I mean, this is fun. I like playing with it. I still enjoy it. And especially this side where you can make all kinds of designs and things like that. And I'll shut up in a minute because I'm talking a lot, but when you when you have something like this, it opens up all kinds of possibilities. And now I'm showing the other side that has all the hundreds of dots, right, that are here. And it opens up all kinds of possibilities. And one of the possibilities that we came up with was like, what if we could have stencils that slide right on? So I'm sliding on this stencil. It's white. It has a house, a small tree, and a large tree, and a sidewalk over here. Then it has the capital H in print. Because guess what? Blind kids want to know what that feels like, right? They want to know what people are talking about when they say, okay, this is a print H. It teaches you how to write the word house in Braille. But the thing I like about this one is it really teaches you art. Like it's an art lesson. just in one little thing that you slide on. Because you start filling this out, and I'm doing the little tree, and then I'm going around the house. And again, it's something that you're immediately successful with, right? Do a little sidewalk. And as soon as I started making like the prototypes, I was working with like, um, you know, I was working with duct tape and cardboard, and I was thinking about how this could be done. I was like thinking like how students could learn things that they never had a concept of before. So you have to sort of get your head into where, how a blind child thinks. And I think you can only do that by working with them for hundreds of hours. And I think that was my advantage, is just working with students day after day after day, watching how they work, watching how they think about things. So what if you ask a blind child, what's taller, a tree or a house? Okay, a simple concept like that is can be very difficult. Now you could hand them something. You could say, okay, here's a picture of a tree and a house. That's all. You could feel the tree, you could feel the house, and that might stick, but actually doing it is a whole other level of learning, right? And actually doing it will also get people to get excited about it, be motivated about it. And then you could discuss, oh, look at this tree. This tree is taller than the house, right? We could check it out. The tree is taller than the house. And this tree looks smaller than the house, the one on the right or left, I don't know. So that one looks smaller. But wait a minute, this tree looks further back than the house. And this tree looks closer than the house. So we're talking about perspective now. When you're closer to an object, something appears larger than if you have mountains in the background that could appear smaller. So it's all concepts like this that students really don't get a chance to understand unless they're explained to them in a special way. And again, we have all kinds of things like just bar graphs. Like, how does a student do bar graphs in school? So if there's 10 kittens, 5 dogs, 4 cows, 7 horses, okay, you can have that all with bar graphs, right? And what if I could fill it in like this? So I could be guided to do the bar graphs. Okay, I'm holding up a cover with a bunch of squares in it so I could do bar graphs. And then I can manipulate the bar graphs. I could say, okay, what if the horses had babies? So now the bar graph goes up and it changes. Blind students were never able to do that before. There's nothing that could do that because you can't like manipulate the graph. You're just handed a graph. And then we like, okay, what about high school kids and college kids? They have to do this thing called XY graphing. Now, I don't know about you, but I used to hate algebra until I had to teach it. And then I had to learn it and teach it to kids. But this is set up so you could do an XY axis. It even has the XY axis on there. And that way, anybody could learn how to plot points on an XY grid. They could learn about mapping and stuff like that. But they could go as far as graphing equations. Right? So this is really like college math and high school math. Okay. You could also, the thing that kids could never do before, because they would make this with string and rubber bands and stuff like that. I see Kathleen nodding her head. But what if you wanted to change it? What if they throw in a -3 in there? So then it changes. So it changes the whole graph. And students were never able to do stuff like that. So this is really exciting. It came from years of really listening to teachers and what they need. And we're going to be able to expand on it. So we're going to go from the math doodle to whole packets of graphs, packets of geometry, packets of all kinds of different subjects. Perhaps have it open source so teachers can make up their own lessons to do with the Braille doodle and share it to the world. And keeping this price down, we're going to make it in India. We're going to be selling this for 150 retail, which is like unheard of in this space. Okay. Things like this, and I've had people tell me, Daniel, you're crazy. You should be getting like 300 for that, at least. Okay. Some companies, they'd be selling it for 400, 500 easily, starting at 500 probably, or something like this. But it takes it away from access to the end users or from countries like India, who would never be able to afford something that was $500 per student. So what we're hoping by forming the nonprofit too, is that somebody on here, like we have, how many people? We have 26 people. One of these people on here has $1 million, and they're going to be able to buy hundreds of Braille doodles for a country in Africa, So, and it's a tax write-off as well. So that's one of the things we're very excited about too, is that we're not interested in huge amounts of profit. Everything about the nonprofit's going to go back into the nonprofit in order to get more Braille doodles to kids who need them, right? And who wouldn't be able to afford them. So we're already starting a list of kids who can't afford Braille doodles, and I'll be able to send them to kids who can't afford them. And that's it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. I did want to mention, but you mentioned it, that you're a nonprofit. So a lot of what you're doing here is in it for the better of the world. And I'm sure there's somewhere some grants we can find too, or somebody can find that would help provide this for kind of country. So does anybody have any questions for Daniel? You can raise your hand, or there you go, Dr. Mata.
Yeah, Daniel, congratulations. It was very, very interesting. And I have a quick question. Why only 10% of blind children in the United States have access to this system?
That's an excellent question. Why, only 10% of children have access to this or being taught this? Number one, there's not enough teachers. There's not enough teachers going to school and learning how to be TVIs, which are teachers of visually impaired. So it comes down to the same thing about just teachers in general. We're not paid enough. We're not respected enough. And we need to get more respect, more pay. It's ironic is the special ed schools pay $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 less than public schools. So the kids who are blind and low vision or emotionally disturbed or have autism, they're getting bottom of the barrel, you know. And then you have rural areas, so areas that are spread out, right? So you have one teacher who can go to, 20 different places in a week. So you get Braille instruction once a week. Now, can you imagine like a person, like a sighted family saying, "Oh, listen, we're just going to teach your kid reading and writing once a week." That's okay, right? No, it's not okay. We want reading and writing every day, just like every other kid. And that's the way it should be. We were trying to think of, I do want to introduce some of people on my team who are here. But we were trying to think of like, what would be a good phrase for us? And I think a good phrase would be literacy and inclusion is a right, not a privilege. Okay, so it's not just a privilege, it's a right for everybody to be able to learn how to read and write, not just kids who are sighted. You're
Daniel,
welcome.
what is your goal? How do you see this device? I know how it's going to be used, but do you have personally a goal, or your company has a goal for this device in the next year and 5 years?
Yeah, well, I'm really hoping to make tens of thousands of these. So it took us 3.5 years to get to this point where we're able to, now they made the molds in China. So the molds cost tens of thousands of dollars because they're cut out of like this hard steel, right? And then you put them together and it injects the plastic. So it's called plastic injection molding, right? But now we have the molds and they're made. It's like putting them on a copy machine. So they go and put it on another one, right? So now we could churn them out. But it's been very difficult. You can't imagine how it's been like to make 1,000 over 1,700 balls just work just right. Because if one ball doesn't work in the letter G, then we gotta throw it out and do it again. So it's very important. And customer service is going to be very important to me. If something happens, we're just going to replace it. We're going to get you a new one. It's not going to be like this whole fight where you're going to have to like send it back and all this. That's going to be very important. But to answer your question completely, Ken, is I have other products I really want to get into, things that will really change the landscape of assistive technology. I feel like, I don't know if, everybody has their own higher power, as I say, but I think my higher power put me in a position where I was able to learn from my students and learn from the people around me and learn from wonderful people like who come on the team, like Dave is on here and John and other people who are able to, give me strength. So really someday we want to come up with something called a Touchpad Pro, and it confuses people, so I don't like to bring it up a lot. But in the future, we want to go full steam into something that would be amazing. So like the Touchpad Pro would be like an iPad that would have pins, thousands of pins that were raised and lowered to different levels. So you would be able to take a selfie and your face would come out of the surface, and you'd be able to feel the contours of your chin and nose and things like that. And yes,
Excuse me,
that would
Mr.
take
Lubiter?
millions of dollars, and it would take engineers from SpaceX. But why can't we have that? Why do we have to, think about like putting people on Mars when we have here people right here on Earth that have these great needs,
But Daniel, we've got a question from Jagway. Jagway is in Uganda.
Okay.
Thank you, Daniel, for the presentation, and it's really insightful. Personally, I do blind football, or what you call blind soccer, and I know what you have shared, some things I really understand the situation you can be narrating. Because if you were to teach anyone who is visually impaired something, it takes a lot of patience for someone to teach them. But my question is basically on because the levels you have cited out, like 10%, I believe in Uganda we are below even 10% literacy for visually impaired persons. I've met so many visually impaired persons in my works in blind soccer, and most of them don't know how to read Braille for real. And it's because of the help of phones and technology that now help them to maneuver around. But in childhood, they never had that chance to do Braille. So my question is, if you look at the basics, we leave out the teachers being few, because even in Uganda, it's more than worse. So my question is, what basic things can you cite out in your perspective, like that we can do to have people have the literacy for the visually impaired achieved, so that they can read from the childhood level? What are those things, like basic, before we go to the equipment, we go to the reading materials? What can we do as people in general?
Okay, that's an excellent question. Excellent question. And there's a lot of resources online now, which is great. You speak English very eloquently, so you'll be able to listen to some videos that are online that will be able to at least start you off. And that's the great thing, I think about Braille Doodle. Like I say, some TVIs, or some people would say, some teachers, it's like, well, how far can you get with it? It's not really for fifth graders or stuff like that. No, it's really to start you off, to get you excited about literacy, that literacy is possible. So to answer your question right away, I would say get some egg cartons, and start with the basics. So you get some egg cartons, you have those 6 things, you learn about where the dots are supposed to be, dot 1, dot 2, dot 1 and 2, dot 1, 3, and 4. And that's where you start. And, kids will start to learn, like, wow, this is possible. I could do something, and then you could go from there for words and sentences.
Yeah.
Does that
we
answer
have
your
one
question?
hopefully. We have one other question from Marcy.
Yes, actually, it's Maurice. I don't know if you can hear me.
Well,
Hi,
okay,
Maurice.
Hi, I'm coming to you from Canada, and I purchased a Braille Doodle. Looking forward to getting one. I'm a lifelong Braille user, blind, and I've got my MEd. But my question for you is, I'm Francophone, and I was just wondering if, obviously, I guess you can do all kinds of languages on the Braille Doodle. There's no language restriction, but will there be templates to for French or other languages? Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up, because that was another exciting thing. Like I said, it became like a snowball effect of like what we could do with all of these things. right? So the answer is a very hearty yes. We could teach French, we could teach Spanish, we could teach Chinese, we could teach Swahili, we could teach Hindi, we could teach all different types of languages because we could make different types of covers like this, and they could go in the back. And
Okay.
that
Okay,
way
that
they can teach it just one thing at a time.
okay. Well, that's super interesting because I mean, if you ever need also help, translating the documents, I'm actually a translator by trade. So if you ever need anything translated into French, I'd be more than happy to help out.
Merci beaucoup.
Ça me fait plaisir.
Mary C, if you can put your contact in the chat. So
The chat, sure, I can do that.
okay.
Just the email or
Uh,
Yeah, so he has your connection, so if he needs you, he can reach out to you.
okay, cool. I will do that. Just in the chat for everybody, or I can maybe email you, Daniel, privately so you can get
That's fine.
okay,
And
perfect.
I'm
Oh,
at
that's better.
Daniel@touchpadprofoundation.org.
Okay, Daniel
Or if-
at
Yeah. Mhm. And if you
perfect.
go on our website, let's see, Touchpad Pro Foundation.org. You could learn a lot more about us and our team, and you could contact us, email us, get on our mailing list, and all of that. If I can we bring up John and Dave?
Well,
I'm not sure if any other people.
Daniel, we've had 3 inductions, so
Oh, right, and we're almost at the hour mark.
and I'll take the last message, last question here from Masenga in Malawi,
Okay.
because we do have the 3 inductions still to do.
Yeah. Well, I guess-
Excuse me, Mr. Lubiter. I wrote some questions about your product in the chat, if that's okay.
okay, cool.
Hello.
Masenga, yes, sir.
Yes, I'm very excited to hear from Daniel from his presentation. I was looking at how he is going to multiply this good work, especially that this machine comes into use, this tool comes into use. Is there any possibility where you are working to say you are emphasizing on training teachers who can able use this machine to assist learners with visual impairment?
Absolutely. And that's, if you look on our website, that's part of our mission, right? Our mission is to get it out there, but it's not going to be very good to have it out there if, people can't learn how to use it. So we're going to have, we're actually just formed a partnership with Lighthouse of Chicago, which is really exciting. So we're going to have people who are blind and low vision. We're hoping to have them on phones working with people. I'm also putting out videos right away. So you'll have audio and video to talk your way through the thing, and I'm going to put up lessons as we go. So I'll be adding lessons. Another excellent question. Somebody asked on here real quick that somebody wanted to know that in India people are using a lot of assistive technology. I'm thinking audio and not leaning towards Braille, and I think that's a darn shame. And that's what's happening a lot, and that's why you see numbers going down. Is like there's a big difference between reading and writing something and listening to it. Okay, big difference. I had a lot of students who graduated who couldn't write a decent email. So
yeah, I was looking at the books that Ken supported us, which I had to distribute to schools with the children with visual impairment who are totally blind, those who are Braille users. The kind of the Braille which he dispatched to Malawi has been even given to the Ministry of Education so that they can emulate that model where
Mhm.
the pictures and print, then there's Braille, which even teachers who are not specialized in Braille are able to assist learners to read. So I'm looking at this one, which is more advanced again. I don't know when we from the third world can even have access to that. Sure.
Well, we're going to do it as much as possible.
Daniel, thank you very much. I'm looking forward to you being a member of the club and inducting you next month.